Understanding graphs of proportions. Remember, you can use a graph to determine if a relationship is proportional. If the graph is a straight line going through the origin, 0, 0, then it is proportional. Once you determine that the relationship is proportional, you can calculate K, the constant of proportionality. Then you can write an equation to represent the relationship. You can use the relationship of y equals kx. So what do these equations mean? Well, once we have determined the equation, we can understand what the graph was showing us visually. So let's look at some examples. Here we have the jitneys in Atlantic City charge passengers for rides. What amount do they charge per ride? So that's asking us for a unit rate. So we can go through the process of finding a point on the graph, using the point to find the unit rate, and then see what does that unit rate represent. What coordinate pair represents the unit rate, and then see does the line run through the unit rate. So we're randomly looking at the point. We're choosing 2, 4.5, that's this point here, and using the y and x value to find the ratio for the unit rate. So the ratio of y to x is 4.5 over 2, which equals 2.25 over 1. So what does that 2.25 over 1 actually mean? Think about what x and y are representing on the graph. Well, the x is the passengers and the y is the cost or the charge that the jitneys are charging per ride. So the jitneys charge $2.25 per ride according to that unit rate of 2.25 over 1. The coordinate pair that represents the unit rate is then 1, 2.25, and the line does run through that point. It's approximately here. Let's look at another example. Here we have Mark drives to work each day. His gas mileage is shown in the graph. So what is the unit rate and what does it represent? So we'll go through each bullet point to answer that question. First, we have to find a point on the graph. So we'll use the point here, 5, 150. So let's use the point to find the unit rate. So we'll use the ratio of y over x, so 150 over 5, which equals 30 over 1. What does that unit rate represent? Think about what does your x and your y represent? It's your gallons and your miles. So if you have 30 over 1, that's representing that Mark drives 30 miles per 1 gallon on average. The coordinate is then 1, 30, which, yes, the line does run through that unit rate. It is approximately here on the graph. Now let's try this. Jasmine gets paid for every dog that she walks according to the graph at the right. What does she earn per dog? So again, we'll go through each bullet point to answer that question, starting with finding a point on the graph. We'll use the point 2, 7 here, finding the point and using it to find the unit rate. We have y over x, that ratio, so 7 over 2, which is equal to 3.5 over 1. So what is that representing? Think about what the x and the y variables represent, and you'll see that she then earns $3.50 per one dog, or for walking that one dog. The coordinate pair is then 1, 3.5, which, yes, the line does run through that unit rate. It's approximately here on the line, on the graph. And now we have this example. We have Mary drives the bus. Her rate is shown in the graph. What is the unit rate and what does it represent? So we'll start like we did in the other examples by finding a point on the graph and then using it to find the unit rate and then see what it represents. So we're using the point 3, 45. We can then use that point to find the unit rate by taking the ratio of y over x. So that's 45 over 3, which equals 15 over 1. So what is that unit rate representing? Well, think about what your x and your y variables are representing. So you have 15 over 1. So she drives 15 people per 1 hour. That would give us the coordinate of 1, 15, and the line does run through that unit rate approximately here. So what we can take away from this is If we find a random point on the graph and find the unit rate, the coordinate of the unit rate, the line will always run through that as well. And we can use that to help us write equations for this proportional graph and see the relationship between x and y and better help us develop an understanding of the variables themselves.